anyone who has expressed an interest in seeing the documentary that I directed, Lady Wrestler, The Amazing Untold Story of African American Women in the Ring, this video is an update about the status of the project and what in the world is taking me so long to release the documentary on streaming services and DVD. So excuse me as I refer to my notes throughout this video, because I jotted down some things that I wanted to say just so I didn't forget all the details. So for those of you who may not be familiar, Lady Wrestler is a documentary about courageous African American women, most of them from my hometown of Columbus, Ohio, where I still live, they braved racism and sexism in the 1950s and 60s to become world famous professional wrestlers. And they traveled all around the world, going to all over the United States and places like Latin America and Canada and Japan and Australia. There was a famous, or should I say infamous, promoter named Billy Wolf, who was originally from Missouri, who located to my hometown of Columbus, Ohio in the 1930s. And he groomed his first wife, Mildred Burke, into becoming the first women's world wrestling champion. Try saying that 3 times. And so he began recruiting Black women into his enterprise. So in the documentary, I got to interview 2 of those African American women, those amazing trailblazers, Ethel Johnson, and she, along with her older sister, Babs Wingo, and her younger sister, Marva Scott, they were all really famous, really accomplished wrestlers. And I also got to interview Ramona Isbell, who is still alive and well and lives in my hometown of Columbus. Ethel passed away in September of 2018. So I'm really excited to have this opportunity to share the story of these amazing women with the world. So that raises the question, what in the world is taking me so long to release this documentary? Because I worked on it for several years, and then for the past few years, I've been kind of promoting it and having screenings and telling people that yes, it will be released on streaming services and DVD, so people around the world can have access to it. So let me first of all kind of give you the timeline of how the documentary came to be and bring you up to speed on where we are now. So I began working on the documentary in 2006 after interviewing Ethel Johnson, originally from my local hometown newspaper, the Columbus Dispatch. That's an interesting story in and of itself, because the newspaper article came out in March of 2006, fittingly during Women's History Month. And Arnold Schwarzenegger, the movie star, the action hero, last action hero, he holds an annual fitness classic, a big bodybuilding and other sports festival in my hometown of Columbus every year. So when the Dispatch article came out, his people saw the article and called me and offered to give Ethel Johnson a Lifetime Achievement Award. But by that time, she was a retired grandmother and really didn't like the spotlight. So she turned down Arnold Schwarzenegger for receiving that award. And I just kind of thought her story was so grand. She had all these amazing stories of going all over the world, wrestling in Latin America under a stage name, Rita Valdez, and the amazing stories she had about braving racism in the Jim Crow South in the 50s and 60s, being run out of town by the Klan and, having, groups like the White Citizen Council threaten to lynch her. And then amazing stories about hanging out with other Black athletes and entertainers like Joe Louis and Ike and Tina Turner and the Harlem Globetrotters. So I just thought her story was so grand that I always say it didn't take Orson Welles to figure out that her story and the story of her contemporaries, the other women who became famous wrestlers alongside her, including her sisters, their story is cinematic. So I've always wanted to be a filmmaker. I'm not classically trained. My degree is in English from Ohio State University, bachelor's degree in English, but I'm sort of self-trained in filmmaking, just kind of learned by doing, watching YouTube videos, taking little courses here and there. So Ethel honored me by saying, yes, she would participate in a documentary. And that led me to doing research to finding other women. So eventually, after I finished the documentary in 2017, after many years of working on it on and off, because I'm not a full-time filmmaker yet. I'm still a working journalist. So what happened is that I decided to kind of follow the strategy that a lot of independent filmmakers make, or the path that a lot of independent filmmakers take, rather, and try to get into the big festivals. Just swing for the fences, try to get into Sundance, Tribeca in New York, Toronto in Canada, and the granddaddy of them all, the Cannes Film Festival in the south of France. And all those festivals rejected Lady Wrestler, but I was able to attend the Cannes Film Festival in 2017 through a program called the Marché du Film, which is an international marketplace where basically anyone can just pay an entry fee, and that entry fee gets you sort of access to the international marketplace where you can meet other filmmakers, producers, sales agents, distributors, and you also get to go to some of the screenings of the Cannes Film Festival. So that was a really cool opportunity. I got to do that in 2017 during the 70th anniversary of the Cannes Film Festival. Saw a lot of big stars walking the red carpet. Mary J. Blige, who was in Mudbound on Netflix at that time, Nicole Kidman, Colin Farrell, Adam Sandler, Spike Lee. I'm sorry, not Spike Lee. Spike Lee wasn't there. Sofia Coppola. So after I kind of finished the strategy of applying to festivals, I decided to go ahead later in 2017 and just go ahead and release the documentary on streaming services and DVD. So I hired a company that subsequently went out of business called Distribber. And if you kind of Google Distribber, it's just a big mess. There's a lot of filmmakers who kind of got left holding the bag by Distribber, unfortunately. And so while I was in the process of trying to release Lady Wrestler on streaming services and on DVD, Distribber had all these technical requirements, and they asked me to make some technical changes to the documentary, just little tweaks here and there. And it took me a while to work with my editor, Paul Hill, who is one of the full-time editors at the Wexner Center for the Arts at The Ohio State University. It's an awesome program. Their film studio program, I was able to get a fellowship there and get free post-production, sound mixing, recorded all the narration there. Paul kind of took my rough edit and really cleaned it up and cleaned up the sound. So it was just this total blessing. So while I was in the process of releasing Lady Wrestler on streaming services, the Wexner Center actually invited me to have a screening there in March of 2018. And I got other invitations. I ended up showing at a couple of local film festivals in Columbus, the Film Festival of Columbus and the Columbus Black International Film Festival. And I also had the honor of showing at the Museum of the Moving Image in New York City through a program run by the awesome producer and filmmaker Warrington Hudlin. So after having these amazing experiences, I thought, you know what? The response has been so great at these screenings. People seem really fascinated by the story of these women. So why not just go ahead and have a series of screenings, like basically a Lady Wrestler World Tour or Lady Wrestler Roadshow. So I had a screening in Philadelphia and a screening in Detroit in the fall of 2019. And so my plan was continue to have these screenings throughout 2020, because periodically people will contact me, they'll email me and say, hey, can't come to Boston? Or, I live in upstate New York, can you have a screening here? And I'm perfectly willing to go where there's a demand, because I want to get the story of these amazing women out to as many people as possible. So I decided, and so there's a story of another company that went belly up just through, a strange twist of fate. There was a company called Tug that allowed independent filmmakers to book movie theaters to have screenings of their films and not have to pay out of pocket. So what you would do is you would pay for the screenings through ticket sales. So that's how I was able to have the screening in Philadelphia. The screening in Detroit, I just did independently, just rented a room in a recreation center, because one of the commentators in the film, Kenneth Clark, lives in Detroit. So I thought, let me bring it to Kenneth's hometown. So I plan to have this tour and just kind of be like a musician, just kind of every weekend wherever there was an opening, wherever there was a demand for lady wrestler, I was willing to go there. So kind of a side note is the reason why I was able to have these screenings is because of the media interest that the documentary generated. Media outlets such as the Associated Press, the Washington Post, the New York Times, the Tom Joyner Morning Show, and several different podcasts had me on. So that was able to generate interest. When people found out about the documentary, they would contact me and say, hey, can you bring your documentary to my town? I even had someone as far away as Istanbul, Turkey, a librarian there at a university there, say, hey, when the DVD is available, please make sure we get one, because this is really an amazing story. So I've had these requests for screenings over the years and had just planned to go around the country and even different places abroad, like Mexico and Australia, where there's different wrestling fans and fans of women's history and sports history. So one of the questions that I had while organizing this tour was, do I simultaneously release the documentary on streaming services like Amazon and on DVD while I'm having these in-person screenings? And that was kind of a conflict in my mind, because the movie industry has not figured out how to have a side-by-side model of theatrical releases and streaming services. A lot of, like, Netflix kind of sees theaters as their competition and vice versa. But what a lot of independent filmmakers and independent production companies and studios, smaller studios, have decided to do is, of course, back when theaters were still open, is they would have these releases called day and date. That's when a movie would simultaneously be released on a streaming service like Netflix or Amazon Prime and be released in theaters at the same time. So the thinking is that people who want to stay home and watch the theater on their TV set or their phone or whatever can do that. But then people who are like real avid moviegoers and enjoy the theatrical experience, they can see the movie in a theater. I don't think the movie industry, in fact, I know the movie industry hasn't totally figured that model out. So what I decided to do was just kind of play it safe and hold off on the release of the streaming service. I mean, releasing Lady Wrestler on streaming services and DVD, not postpone it indefinitely, but just kind of hold off while I was having these in-person screenings, because I wanted to have as big of a turnout at the in-person screenings as possible. And it's kind of hard to convince people, hey, leave the comfort of your own home and come see this movie when you can watch it, like I said, on your phone or on your TV screen or whatever. So I had planned this big tour, and then of course, COVID hit. So with the pandemic, who knows when theaters and other venues will be fully functional again, and when we'll be able to have movie screenings and mass gatherings at all. I mean, I have a lot of musician friends who are in the same boat. They make their living, or they sell their art or promote their art by having concerts in person. They've had to go to having virtual concerts or no concerts at all. So I decided just to go ahead and move forward with the streaming release and the DVD release this year in 2020, because I'm still willing to have in-person screenings, but who knows when that will be safe again. Now, it would be easy for me just to go ahead and upload the documentary to some streaming service like Amazon. Amazon pretty much allows anyone who meets their technical requirements to upload material there. I could upload it to Vimeo or even YouTube and just throw it up there. But I don't want to do that, because I feel like this story is too important. So I want to take the time to give it a proper release. So that involves generating some more publicity and coming up with a marketing strategy that I can build up buzz, so that as many people as possible will be able to find out about and once the documentary is finally released, finally go ahead and watch the documentary, because you can't watch something that you don't know exists. So I kind of have to raise the profile of the documentary, and it takes time and planning to do that, instead of just throwing it up online, just to say I've released it. So I'm in the process of pinning down, unintended, an official release date for Lady Wrestler. Now, one thing that's important to stress is that Lady Wrestler was entirely funded by me. I was not backed by any investors. I was not backed by a studio. I did not work with a producer who raised money. I did not do any crowdfunding on Kickstarter or Indiegogo or Seed and Spark. Lady Wrestler is 100% funded by me. I didn't even get any grants or anything. So I raise that just to say that, you know, I have not taken any pre-orders. I have not taken anyone's money. So even though I want to release the movie in as timely a fashion as possible, I feel comfortable in taking my time because I haven't taken anyone else's money. I don't have like a whole stack of pre-orders where people have sent me money and are waiting to get the DVD or waiting to get their link to watch the movie on Amazon Prime or whatever, because I haven't taken anyone's money specifically because I knew it would take time to plan this out the way that it needs to be. So that's one thing that that I sort of am glad that I did. I mean, I have nothing against crowdfunding. It's great when you can use other people's money, but I just did not want to go that route because I did not want to be beholden to people. So Lady Wrestler is, like I mentioned, is an independent film, entirely I'm a one-man studio basically. And when I have a concrete release date, I will let you know, I will let everyone know, and I will publicize it as widely as I can. And if you'd like to be added to the list to find out about the official release date, please shoot me an email at ladywrestlermovie@gmail.com. Again, that's ladywrestlermovie@gmail.com, and I will put that email address in the description of this video. I appreciate your patience with me. I look forward to sharing the story of these amazing women with you. So thank you for watching, and I will definitely keep you posted.